Welcome to another episode of TheSession. I am Timothy Teach Jones.
This is Dwight James Jr.
And we are really happy to have you guys here. We got a great topic. We got to jump right in because there's so much information. For those of you that are listening, you already know that Dwight James Jr. Has a master's degree in business. He's getting his doctorate now. This is his thing. He's been the CFO at 2 organizations. If it's one thing he knows, it's money. So I'm going to be asking some questions and kind of like following his lead. But you guys are in for a treat. I strongly encourage you to get a pen and pad for this episode because this is going to be critical to your overall financial health and well-being. And we'll jump right into it. Dwight, you told me when we were prepping for this that you thought that everybody needs a budget. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, a budget is not a bad word, okay? A budget does not limit your freedom. A budget actually gives you freedom. It's a plan of action. Mm-hmm. So a budget is basically a plan for your money. The thing is, with this podcast, we talk about winning strategies and practical tools to help you succeed. Well, this is a part of that. In order to win with money, you have to remember this. Winning with money is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. So,
okay, what does that mean?
In other words, it's more than just adding 2 plus 2. In other words, money is more of a behavioral mindset. So the way you think about and approach money actually helps you out. So we're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to just talk about different aspects of a budget to help you win with money.
Now, when me and you have talked in the past, just personally, and I've asked you for advice in the past about finances, because that's something that you're very strong in. One thing you told me was name every dollar. What does that mean?
Yeah. So the first part, there's different types of budgets. Let's just talk about that first. The budget I personally use is called a zero-based budget. In other words, before the month even starts, you have a plan on paper or a computer, and you give every single dollar a name. One of my financial mentors is a guy by the name of Dave Ramsey. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. And he calls it a zero-based budget. Okay. So in essence, before the month even starts, you have every dollar has been given a name. It's going to start with, your housing, your shelter, electricity, whatever it is. But you're giving your every dollar a name, so that John Maxwell put it this way, you're telling your money where to go instead of trying to figure out where it went.
Got it.
So a budget helps you have more money than you got month, because a lot of us, we get to about the 20th, 21st of the month and the money has already ran out.
Yeah. And D, when you talk about naming every dollar, if just for to be practical with everyone that's listening, you mean like there's an allotted amount for groceries, for gas, etc.?
Exactly. You have an allotted amount for your rent, your mortgage, your electricity, your groceries, different things like that. So that's what I mean when I say every category, every dollar has a name. So
got it.
Here's the tip though. I heard it put this way one time. When your outgo exceeds your income, the upkeep will be your downfall. So in other words, if all your expenses is more than all your income, well, then there's going to be a problem. So a budget gives you freedom because it means you're going to set down a plan where your income minus all your expenses will equal 0.
Okay.
So that's the first part about that. Now, one of the questions that I commonly get is this, Tim: who should do the budget?
Exactly. I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, who should do the budget? Should the husband do the budget? Should the wife do the budget? You should do the budget together. In my house, I'm the finance person by craft, but my wife and I sit down together and do the budget.
Got it.
Because You don't want to make it like it's a dictatorship where, you telling her or him, whoever,
this is where the money's going.
This is where it's going to go. Yeah. So make it fun. No one likes to come to dinner for budget meeting night, but make it fun, be creative in how you do it. But if there's two of you, one might be more money savvy, which is fine, but you still need that input from the other person.
Now, Dwight, I have a quick question. What about the people that, number one, they don't like the word budget, but I mean, obviously we all need to be on one, or they don't like the idea of having all the money allotted, because they American Express is going to get their money, the grocery, is going to get their money, the car insurance, and they feel like there's nothing left for them. How can we include ourselves in the budget as well?
No, that's an excellent question. I put myself in the budget. Part of my budget is me. Okay. So what I call it, you can call it whatever you want, but I call it blow money. And, I have, other people call it their mad money account. Other people.
I call it personal money.
Their personal money. But so when you create your budget, there's two important categories I want you to put in there. Number one is your blow money. In other words, that's the money that you're going to spend personally. Like, this is my money to do whatever I want to do with it. And it's not going to touch any other category because those categories are already taken care of. The other account or category that I want you to take note of is what I call miscellaneous. Mm-hmm. In other words, this is the catch-all account. If I forgot to put something in one of the other categories, well, I can catch it in this type of category, mm-hmm. as far as miscellaneous. So that's part of it. One thing too is, if you're just getting started with this, if this is like your first time doing a budget, don't beat yourself up over it. Budgeting takes time. Mm-hmm. I've been doing budgeting for a few years now, and I'm still trying to perfect it. So don't create a budget that is going to be and expect it to be perfect. Yeah. You're going to have mistakes.
Now, Dwight, we kind of conversed about this on a different call, because you used you and your wife as like the example, but there's a lot of single people like me that are listening. Then you got people that are on a fixed income. Right. Maybe they are a part of the AARP community. But then you also have people that have an irregular income because maybe they're salespeople, or my brother's a teacher. So I know a lot of teachers, they get paid once a month. So depending on, regardless of the frequency of when they get paid, sometimes even in the sales world, you don't get paid until you make the sale. So you might get a large sum of money, but not know when the next, downfall is going to come or windfall. So what advice would you give to the different specific, groups, including single people who say, dude, I run out of month. I got way more money every month. Help us.
That's a great example. You pack so much in that question. So we're just going to unwrap it layer by layer. If you're single, my advice is to find someone who can act as accountability partner to help you stick with your goals. The purpose of a budget is to give you a plan of action, but it's a plan of action to help you achieve your goals. So my conversation with couples is, you need to get on the same page with money. So set your goals together, dream about what your future is going to look like. But remember this, I know we're going to do a relationship, marriage podcast,
dating, later, all that.
But let me just throw this out there. If if you're married, the two of you are now one, then your bank account should be one personally. Mm-hmm. So it's no longer your money, my money, it's our money. So you two are coming together to figure out a plan for our money. Now, if you're single, there is no our money. Obviously, all of it is yours. It's my money. Okay. Yeah. So find someone who can act as that accountability partner to help you stick with your goals. And what I mean by that is, they're not telling you what to do with your money, but they're kind of keeping you accountable as far as that's concerned. Now, you asked me another part, which was dealing with those who have irregular or inconsistent income.
Mm-hmm.
You can budget with inconsistent or irregular income. A good rule of thumb for my people who are in consulting or people who work on commission base or things like that, a good rule of thumb is this: make your budget based on what a low earning month would look like.
Okay.
So this becomes your budgeting income. So all you have to do is make a list of everything you would put in a normal budget, your whatever you give charity wise, your savings, your four walls, etc. Now ask yourself this question: if I had a terrible month and we only had money to do a couple of things on this list, what would it be?
Okay, so to help prioritize what's important.
Yeah, you have to prioritize. But I know a lot of people who are on commission, and like you said, Tim, they make money based off of the sale. And so they go 2 or 3 months without a check because, like with the real estate, if that home does not close, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
So people like that, you create a budget on what is a low earning month. Look at the previous months you've had. What is like one of the lowest earning months you've had? And then create a budget on that level.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm going to give this quick tip out here too, since I'm on this.
Yeah. And don't forget about the fixed income, but go ahead.
Yeah. We're going to get to the fixed.
Okay. All right. Because you got some senior citizens listening.
We got some, if it's fixed, if it ain't broke,
don't fix
it. One of the quickest ways you could do a budget, obviously, is, pen and paper, but there's so many websites and tools you can do. One of the ones I like to use is called EveryDollar. So you can go to everydollar.com and create a budget. Now, for the fixed people, if you have a fixed income, you have to base your budget on your income, whatever you have coming in. So if you get paid once a month from the state or from federal, whatever it is,
sure,
then your budget is based off of that. Now, remember, you can't spend money you don't have. So part of this plan, and we'll talk about it later, but part of this plan with the budget is so that you can win with money, which is getting out of debt, investing, doing things like that. So if you don't have it, you can't spend it. That's where that plan, I know you don't like the B word, so we'll just call it a plan.
That's spending plan. How about that?
Spending plan, there we go. That spending plan comes in to help you win with money.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, question for you. Now, me and you have not discussed this at all, but it came to me while you were speaking, and I want to know your honest opinion about it. And you don't have to tell us what you do, but it resonated with me when I heard this. I heard someone that I really respect. I read their book, and they said that they think that all married couples should have at least 4 accounts. And this is what they were referring to, that there's a joint checking account that all the bills are paid out of, that there is a joint savings account that neither party can make withdrawals from unless both parties, sign off on it. That was just, a little caveat. And then they both have their own accounts, because that way you can maintain, and it kind of goes back to you talking about blow money, and I'm talking about personal money. But just in regards to people that are listening right now and they want to go a little bit deeper, what is your personal opinion? I know, you may be very disciplined and you can do it all out of one account, but do you have an opinion on people wanting to have multiple accounts for specific purposes and then having that savings account for joint accountability with their spouse that nobody can touch unless both signatures sign off on it? Do you have an opinion about any of that?
I do. That is an excellent point. You can have as many accounts as you want. My takeaway is not so much the number of accounts as much as it is the access to those accounts.
Okay.
So what I mean is you have the joint, you have the savings. If you're obviously in a relationship, you said, he has his account, he has her account. Well, focusing primarily on those 2 accounts as long as the spouse has access to those accounts, then I don't see an issue.
You mean to their access into the other person's personal account?
Person's personal account. In other words, there is no money anywhere.
You think they should have access to my account?
Listen, there is no money anywhere that my wife does not have access to.
Understood.
And there's no money. Well, I think there's no money I don't have access to.
Exactly.
Now, that's a good point. But no.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because, I believe as far as marriage is concerned, like,
I agree 100%.
If you're one, then
there's no issue with that.
One. There should be no issues. Now, but that is you can put, for discipline purposes, you can take like the blow money you're going to use or your spending money and put it in that personal account.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
That's what I was referring to. I thought you got that on the front end.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, even though I have a personal account.
Yes, she has access to it.
She has access to it.
Got it. Yeah, there's no issue with that.
There's no issue with that. But, so you can use a general account for, housing, whatever, those type of stuff. You have your savings accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Then, maybe you put your blow money over in a separate account. Now, if you're like me, I have money in different accounts because if I want to surprise my spouse, then I use, the personal account to do it. Although she has access to it, more than likely she won't check that account. She probably will now after she listens to the podcast.
And that enables you to surprise her.
Exactly.
Because it hasn't been part of the spending plan. It's not allotted for.
Exactly. My concern is if you're married, you should have, there should be no account that's off limits, unless it's like a business account or something like that for legality purposes. But if you're married, there should be no, this is mine, this is hers type of deal.
Now, Dwight, before we move into savings because of time purposes, one of the things I understand from you, and I'm on the same page with you, whether you're single, married, senior citizen, if you have irregular income, everybody needs a spending plan. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And some quick points before we move over to savings is to be content with your plan. In other words, don't compare your budget to somebody else's budget.
Mm-hmm.
Your budget is particularly for you. So you take the time to craft it however you want to and make a schedule as far as when you're going to budget and then just stick to it. Just remember this. Your budget is your plan to win with money. Everybody I know, from, the billionaires down to the, people who are all successful with money, the one thing that I'm finding out that every single person does, regardless of income, is they have a spending plan.
Yeah.
There's a quote, I don't know who said it, but there's a quote that says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
And that applies to money. So you have to have a plan in place if you want to win. And so that's how that goes. So with savings, go ahead.
Well, real quick, before we get to savings, I want to say something to the listeners. I mean, this has really helped me over the years, in addition to all the points that Dwight just shared. You got to get to a place, because there are people who have spending problems. Like before we even get into, the gas bill, the light bill, the personal money, et cetera, et cetera. I think that, it's almost therapeutic that we have to deal with overspending. And, sometimes we have, now this is going a little deeper, but this is valuable. Sometimes we have low self-esteem, D, and I've experienced this not only in my personal life, but I've observed it. We're like, we got to get the shoes and we got to get the rims and we feel like we have to in order to feel good about ourselves. And we can't stay on a budget. Like before I can even subscribe to your budget, like I really have to deal with, why am I spending the way that I am? Because I'm hurting myself. And you were at a conference that I was at. This was many years ago, so I hope you remember this. And a gentleman came and said that he would rather have a $5 purse with $5,000 in it than to have a $5,000 purse with $5 in it.
Absolutely.
And he also made reference to, having a luxury vehicle that you can't even take to get maintenance on, but you are impressing everyone that sees the car. And the old adage, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but the Joneses are broke. So I'm only saying that for all of the people that are listening, get to that place where your happiness is not rooted in your spending, whether that be clothes, shoes, cars, rims. If you can afford the Benz, get it. If it's going to hurt, I was out at a car dealership years ago when I was married. A very close friend of mine went with me to the car dealership, Dwight, and I came so close to getting this car, and I really couldn't afford it. It was going to be like skinning a cat every month to make that note. And the friend that was with me just said one thing to me. He said, T, if you buy this car and it's going to take money out of your children's mouth every month, don't do it. And I was on the test drive when he said it. I drove that car back to the car lot, gave the dude the keys and drove off in my little old bucket.
That's right.
And we have to have that type of self-discipline. And one more thing that requires discipline is savings. And there's a lot of people, D, that do not save at all. One, they may not have had a blueprint where dad and mom didn't show them the value of saving, or they didn't have a dad or mom. I work with foster youth a lot. So there are kids who grew up in the system that are listening to you right now. There are people who grew up with a single mother and she needed every dollar every month just to make ends meet. And so she didn't save a lot, so they didn't see it. What can you say to help people understand the value of savings?
No, that's a great point. Remember what we said at the top of this podcast was that winning with money is 80% behavior.
Yeah.
And only 20% head knowledge. So to your previous point, that's where that comes in at. Savings to me is a stabilizer.
Mm-hmm.
Saving money gives you a plan to have money for an upcoming event, whatever it is. There's a lot of different bank accounts there's like an automatic savings built into it.
Mm-hmm.
So however that looks like for you, I believe every single person listening to us right now should save, whether you save $5 a month or $500 a month.
Yeah.
Part of your budgeting process is to put something away. So early on, I couldn't always save. I wouldn't save. When you holding checks and doing different things like that, it's hard to save. In other words, what I mean by holding checks is if you don't know when the next time you're going to get paid based on that irregular income we talked about,
exactly,
then you have to have a savings. That's where that stabilizer comes in at. So
that's good.
You should seek to save, a small percentage of your income every month.
What might be a percentage? That's exactly where I was going to go. Yeah. There are people like on the edge of their seat saying, how do I get started?
You know what? For savings, honestly, I don't have a specific income for percentage. Investing, I do. But savings, when I talk about savings right now, I'm talking about that additional aspect to your checking account. In other words, you go to the bank right now, you tell them you want to open up an account. They're going to try to put you with a checking and a savings.
Yes.
And so they'll create a plan. Like right now, one of the checking accounts I have, $25 a month automatically shifts from my checking to my savings.
I like that.
Every single month. I don't even have to think about it.
It's almost like a direct deposit.
It's a direct deposit every single month. Now, as long as that is not touched, that $25 a month
will add up.
Is going to add up over time. So as far as savings, don't limit yourself and don't downplay yourself. I can put $10 a month for my savings account. Well, guess what? At the end of the year, you saved $120.
I love it.
That's $120 more than what you had at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, just put something aside is my point. Don't be like, there's a lot of people who they spend every dollar. They don't save every dollar. So That's where that restriction, that's where the budget comes in at. Because remember, T, I don't know if you noticed, but Christmas is in December this year. So Christmas is coming.
Yes, sir.
And it's on the same day every year.
Yeah.
But somehow we get to November or we get to about mid-December, we be like, oh man, Christmas is next week. we already know the date for Christmas for probably the next 100 years.
Right.
So put a plan in place. That's where that savings part comes from.
Well, let me say this too, because like I love how you are giving the educated facts for the people. And I want to give something like a real quick tidbit to people who, again, piggybacking on that, controlling your spending. Please, for all those that are listening right now, whether you're a single parent or you're married or you're older, you don't have to break yourself because of propaganda. Like if the holidays come, and Christmas happens to be my favorite holiday of the year. I love the music, I love eggnog, and I love, Christmas carols and everything that has to do with Christmas. But I remember once when my oldest daughter was like 1, we bought all these gifts for her. She's 1 year old, and I'm sitting in the living room wrapping the gifts. And I said, what am I doing? And I didn't have the money to do this, but I was just so overjoyed because it's my daughter and I'm in love with her and I want her to be happy. I sat there and said, you know what? We are making a huge mistake. Took all the toys back, got her 1 or 2 toys. The child was playing with the boxes on Christmas, climbing in the boxes, putting wrapping paper in her, her pajamas.
Yeah.
We don't have to. We gotta start remembering that we got to look out for ourselves. And like D, you told me one phrase you made to me over a year ago that stuck with me was pay yourself first.
Yes.
Like you're paying Hyundai, you're paying Chevron, pay yourself first. And that should be, somewhere put aside that nobody touches it because emergencies are going to come.
Listen, when you do your budget, for my personal budget, before I put money in any other category, I start with my giving and my savings. That's at the top of the list.
Right.
Then comes the 4 walls. What are the 4 walls? Food, shelter, utilities, basic clothing, and transportation. Mm-hmm. But that savings part, that's up top. That comes, I budget out my savings.
You treat it like a bill.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Because if you don't pay yourself first, who's going to pay you?
Hello.
You are your greatest investment. So you have to save. Saving is not for anybody else. That's for you. So whatever you get coming in, that first part of the check, take some off the top and slide it over to the savings account.
Sure.
And so one quick thing, I'm pretty sure we're coming here short on time.
Go ahead.
But just remember this, every single month is different. So some months you have to budget for things like back to school supplies or routine car maintenance. Mm-hmm. Other months you're going to be saving for vacations and birthdays and holidays. Mm-hmm. Just remember, regardless of the situation or the occasion, make sure you have a plan in place with your budget.
Is that where miscellaneous comes into play? Because every month is going to be different and you may need breaks this month and you may not need anything next month.
Yeah, that's where part of miscellaneous can come from. But also, like for me and Tim, we grew up in the same area, and so I'm a big giver, and so a lot of time, this is just a practical example. I used to want to give my pastor a certain amount of money for his birthday. That was just me. Now, in order for me to do that, I had to budget for that probably 3 or 4 months out.
Right.
Because I knew it was coming. And so whether it's somebody's birthday, whether it's those Christmas gifts that you try to get for the kids or whatever it is, if you know it's coming, just start putting some aside in the months prior to it.
I love it.
So just have a plan in place.
Well, D, we are on the last 30 seconds of this session. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We hope that this information has been valuable to you. It's not just what you hear, it's how you execute that makes the difference. So it's all about results. On behalf of Dwight James Jr., I'm Timothy Teach Jones, and this is The Session.
Subscribe to our YouTube page by clicking the link below. There you'll find links to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any future episodes. So until next time, thanks for tuning in to The Session.